Hi everyone, I'm Birgit from the factory, the Innovation Hub at EY, and I'm sitting today with my colleague Aisha Kotari. Aisha is a colleague of ours. She's supporting startups and scale-ups in the EY Innovation Program, and she's really helpful because she has a different kind of perspective than the usual EY colleague, and that is because she has her own startup next to the work she does for the factory. So hi Aisha, thanks for sitting at the sofa with me.
Not at all. Thank you for having me, and I'm so happy that we're doing this session. So before we start, I'll just tell everyone a little bit about myself. So I'm originally from India, a little obvious, I think. I studied in the US to study business at the Wharton School. And from there, it's a very traditional path. And at that time, social media didn't really exist. I graduated in 2011. So I joined EY in New York. That's when I worked for the commercial due diligence department. Then I got married. I moved to Antwerp, Belgium. Worked with a VC for a little while. And then from there on, actually went back to EY Belgium doing the same commercial due diligence work. I think that period of my life went on for about 6 years. Between 2016 and 17, my mind started working, that what else do I want to do? That's kind of what led me to my current startup, Aispi. And I also decided then to start working part-time at EY and in the different department that is the factory today. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Okay, that's really cool to see, like, the combination of having your own startup and then also having that corporate side in your life. And I'm asking myself, like, why did you make the choice of doing the combination and not just plunge all the way into the startup life?
It's actually a question that I get really often, and I guess the answer that I really, truly, with all my heart and soul believe is that one size fits none. It's because I had an idea. I wasn't in this industry before, and it wasn't an A to B to C to making revenue. Knowing that if I wasn't so clear about the revenue model or the business model, or let's say, turning this idea into a business, and at the same time, if I still had pressure of making money, I think I would have taken a lot of wrong decisions to basically, get the quick money or to get the pressure of actually making a quick revenue and not really creating value. Not all jobs can combine part-time with a startup. That's also super important to understand, because when people ask me why not go all the way, or why are you still part-time, it's because I've created a win-win situation for myself. It's a space where what do? I work with startups, I consult startups, I create programs for them. So every single day I am getting inspired. I am learning something new. I am in a space where I'm getting exposed to new technologies, new methods, and every day I'm seeing a different way of doing things. While I might say I am working part-time, it's just one big ball, or like this one big role that I'm doing, and everything just fits really well together. I don't feel conflicted.
And when you're working like part-time corporate, part-time startup, which are like totally different worlds, do you see like the advantages of both sides and maybe also the disadvantages of them?
I think that the big difference between working for a corporate and having your own startup, I think the passion is the same. I think the hard work is the same. Accountability is the same. I don't think any of that is different. But the one thing that's different is that you set the pace. In your company, you set the pace, and if you stop, your business stops. And I think that feeling, or that guilt feeling, I wasn't prepared for it. If I call in sick, there's no sick day, like there's no public holiday. Like if I call in sick, sure, you can sit in bed for 5 days, but your business is on a standstill. You have a team, sure. I think a lot of people have grown, they have big teams, but you are the founder. You are the one that sets the culture, the pace, the expectations.
I can imagine that being exactly in that combination, and as you said, like you have to define the pace of running the startup and how the startup needs to be run actually. Do you ever have a pause button that you can push on to say like, hey, now it's private time and now my startup and my work at the corporate stops? How do you balance that?
So I think, and that's what I tried, I tried really hard to have this word balance, And at this moment, the space that I'm in, I don't think that's existing for me. And I think the first step is acceptance. The day I was willing to accept that is when I could figure out how to cope with it. I think it's about thinking of your life as a whole, or thinking of you as a person and not as a compartmentalization of private and professional and corporate and startup. It's kind of like wherever you are, you're just bringing yourself there. So I'm kind of blurring the lines between all my different aspects. Sometimes I do try to have planned time off, where I'm like, okay, but I'll purposely put myself in a holiday or in a space where I can't be accessible. So I'm not going to go to like a city and then say, hey, I'm not going to be accessible. I might go to the mountains or I'll go to the beach.
Really switch off then.
Exactly. But I think I need to plan that into my agenda. It actually becomes one of your meetings almost.
Yeah.
It's like a meeting with yourself in some sense.
Meeting with yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be like, hey guys, I'm not going to be available for X amount of time. Let's respect that, because I mean, we're all human beings, and sometimes we will need to reload our batteries on a different level.
And actually, for the people that feel guilty doing that, I also managed to cope with that, is because sometimes when you actually switch off, you almost become a consultant to your own business. So what I mean by that is, because you step away from that everyday grind, you actually sometimes come up with a really fresh perspective, and you're like, wait, why didn't I think of that?
I guess that like running a startup, the cliche is that it's an emotional roller coaster. It's not only a cliche, it's exactly the truth. It's what it is. How do you cope with like the emotional highs and lows that you can have like day by day?
So I think that to begin with, I am personally also a very emotional human being, which doesn't help. In the beginning, I would take almost everything as a personal loss or as a personal, attack on myself, and because I wasn't used to it. I mean, when you work in a corporate of someone else, mostly there's set systems, so it's very much like this, someone giving you a pat on your back all the time if you did well. Someone is correcting you if you messed up, and you are getting rewarded for your good work. I didn't realize how much I was dependent on that. It's like, you think that, okay, of course, like I have my own company, it's like the freedom, it's the ability to make your own decisions and all of that, but there's no one sitting there and telling you did a good job. The three main things that I noted down was that, so the first thing is celebrate the small wins. So really, every time there is a win, write it down. You'll start seeing that, that sort of that list becoming longer and longer, even if it's a small thing. The second thing, which is really related to that, is as you make that list, every time you make 5 or new additions, reflect back that before those 5 additions, where were you? When I first went for my fashion week, I didn't even know what it was. The second one, I had to beg maybe 10 PR agencies to even give me I got 1 pass maybe. And now it's we're getting invited to things. Those are wins, and just reflecting back where you were really helps. And then I think the last part I would say is that be okay with change. Those, I think these are the small things. And finally, keep the ones who are close to you informed about what you're doing. Because especially when you're having a bad day or when your things aren't going as planned, if your husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, mom, dad, I don't know, kids, whoever that is around you that's close, if they know why that's the case, they can be there for you emotionally, and that support really helps. So, yeah.
Cool. One last question. I mean, you've been running Aispi for a couple of years now. What kind of advice would you give to the Aisha 2 years ago or 3 years ago when you started it?
I think the first thing, like I said, was be aware that it's okay, just those
Yeah.
words. Like sometimes it's just okay. Like you don't, you are setting your own expectations, your own milestones, and that's also the advantage, right? You can scale it down and scale it up. So sometimes just be okay with those things. The second thing is be prepared for change, because the more you accept change with a big happy stride, the faster your business will grow, because really it's like build, measure, learn. So always measure it, learn it, and rebuild it if you have to, pivot it. And I think that's a really, really important thing, because the faster you can accept change, the faster you will run.
Exactly.
And I think that the final one, and this I have really learned it, is persistence is key. I think you can achieve, for me, I've been able to achieve that by two things. So one, don't have an ego. Really, I mean, it doesn't help. When you need to build your business, you are a nobody. Do not disrespect anyone at any point, because you just don't know who they can be, how they can help you. Let's say you really pitched your idea to a client who you really wanted on board, and they just replied saying, sorry, not interested. 3 words. Sometimes just sending that one sentence replying, thank you for your time, for reading our email. We understand it's not something for you. Hopefully our paths cross in the future.
It shows respect.
It shows respect. It shows that you could take that rejection very confidently, maturely. And then the second part where I said that persistence is key is really that you just don't know that who can connect you to what. So never like close your mind, or don't say no.